Hello friends, welcome. In this video, we'll talk about the varieties of English, especially the two major varieties of English known as British English and American English. The difference between British and American English can be understood in terms of its spellings, pronunciation, and its grammar as well, and in relation to its vocabulary as well. So let's try to understand these differences in relation to spellings, pronunciations, vocabulary, and grammar of British English. Now let's try to understand the difference between British English and American English with the help of its spellings. In relation to spellings, British English differs from American English, or American English differs from British English in many respects. These differences of spellings can be understood in terms of groups. We can make groups like color group. Say for instance, first is the color group, in which American spellings generally do not use U, which British deliberately use. You can see that in these examples of the words like color, labor, weather, behavior, and mold. The second group is called the center group, in which Americans tend to write the spelling ER while British write RE. So this is the difference. You can see that difference with and compare the spellings on your screen. This is liter, theater, meter, fiber, center. So these are the differences. The third group is known as estrogen group, in which Americans tend to delete O and British tend to use O when spelling is E. See the example of the word fetus. F-O-E-T-U-S is the British spelling and F-E-T-U-S is the American spelling. Look at other words: esophagus, homeopathy, amoeba, and estrus. The spellings, you can see the difference between spellings on your screen. The next group is the group called the aesthetic group, in which Americans again tend to omit a while British tend to use it. See, the first example is that of encyclopedia. The spelling is P-A-E-D-I-A, of pedia, while in American it is P-E-D-I-A. Similar is the case with all other examples. For example, archaeology, pediatric, estivate, and anesthetic. This is another group called ISE group, because Americans use the spelling IZE and British use the spelling ISE. See this and compare. There are examples before you: civilize, organization, realization, or realization is repeated, minimize. These are the examples with the help of which we can understand the difference between the spellings of British English and American English. Now, this is one more group, YSE group. It is similar to the earlier, only spelling differs with Y and I. See the examples: analyze, paralyze, catalyze, psychoanalyze, hydrolyze. These are the examples of British English, while in American English the same words, but the spellings differ because they use Z instead of S. There is another group called OGUE group. This is again the similar sort of group in which Americans tend to delete additional UE which British use deliberately. Okay, you can see the examples of the words catalog. Catalog is actually spelled as C-A-T-A-L-O-G-U-E in British and C-A-T-A-L-O-G in American. So Americans tend to simplify things while British tend to keep them as they are. The other words are monologue, prologue, dialogue, and epilogue. You can also find many other words wherein you can find the difference of the spellings in British and American English. Now, let's understand the difference in pronunciations of British and American English. Many of the American pronunciations differ from British pronunciations, and these differences can also be classified into various categories. We can see those categories one by one. The first differentiation is the difference of pronunciation of sound A as A. See, it is not exactly A, but as there is no other way to represent things graphically, so we have two phonemic sounds which we can compare. So this is A and A. So British tend to use R sound in certain cases, while Americans tend to use A sound in certain cases. Here are a few examples before you. For example, the first word is bar, which is in British English it is bar specifically, and in American English it is bear. In British English the word dance, and in American it is dance. In British it is class, and in American it is class. In British it is stance, and in American it is stance. And in British it is chance, and in American it is chance. I think you have understood this difference of a and a sound, although it is not exactly a, but it is similar to that. Next is the deliberate pronunciation of a sound. You can see that sound a here. See, in many cases, British tend to omit the pronunciation of r sound, unless it is followed by a vowel sound, or it appears initially in a sentence or immediately after or before a consonant. Otherwise, in English, r sound is totally silent in British English. In American English, the case is different. It is not like that. You can understand this difference with the help of examples, a few examples given here. We can also read out a few sentences which I think I have recorded with me, and with the help of those examples also we can understand those differences. In relation to earlier words, wherein the word bar, dance, class, dance, and chance were there, we could see a few sentences. For example, if there is a word bar, and if a Britisher is saying it, he'll say, I'm sitting in a bar. While if an American is saying it, he'll say, I'm sitting in a bar. So this is the difference that we have to understand. Now, for dance, if a girl is dancing, the Britisher will say she is a gracious dancer, while an American will say she is a gracious dancer. So this is the specific difference. Now come to this, in which r sound is deliberately produced and in a different way produced by Americans. The word bar, which is British in itself, becomes bear. The word start becomes start. The word father becomes father. The girl becomes girls. Bird becomes bird. So this is the basic difference. Try to understand it with the help of a few examples. Say, for example, there is a sentence, which bar you're in. A British will say which bar you're in, while American will say which bar you're in. Next would be, I'm starting my scooter. This will be the Britisher who would say, I'm starting my scooter, while an American will say, I'm starting my scooter. I'm starting my scooter. And in relation to father, British will say, he's my father, while American will say, he's my father. He's my father. Because Americans tend to pronounce the sound r. Girls and birds, same is the case. I think you have understood this difference. Now let's move on to the next difference. What do is they also assimilate t sound into, actually it is t, into n. And when do they do it? They do it when sound t occurs immediately after n, it gets assimilated into n. I think you're not getting the point. If t sound occurs immediately after n, int. So this t gets assimilated into n. In fact, it is omitted out. See the spellings and try to understand. The word is internet. The British word is internet, while Americans will say internet. They'll not say internet, they'll say internet, because two different rules are there. One is they're omitting the t sound and they are producing r deliberately. So these are the two things. This is what we have to understand, internet. Now next is international in British. It is internal in British, while it is in American it is internal. Internal. This is our internal matter. British, this is our internal matter, while Americans, this is our internal matter. This is the difference. Next is entertain. Entertain, British. American, entertain. Entertain. This is American. Painter, British. Painter, American. Center, British. Center, American. There is another characteristic feature of American English in which voiceless alveolar plosive sound actually becomes voiced alveolar plosive. In simple words, becomes d when it occurs at the end and mostly before r sound, which actually British tend to make a. You can understand it with the help of example C, better. So it is better for British, and for American it is better. It is matter for British, and for American it is matter. So if you have to see this used in a sentence, and if the sentence is she is better than me, British, in American it will be she is better than me. She is better than me. And of matter, what's the matter? What is the matter? What is the matter? So two different things are there. Same is the case with later and later. Later, later, smarter, 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 and starter, starter. So this is the difference between the spelling of t and d when it occurs at the end of the word. Okay, there is another change you can see when Americans people speak. That is, the back rounded vowel shifts to back unrounded vowel. Now, this is a technical term, but in simple words, I can tell you O of British, O sound of British becomes A sound of American. So rounded sound becomes unrounded. You can understand it with the help of examples also. So in British, the word college is pronounced as college, while it is in American pronounced as college. College becomes college. Knowledge becomes knowledge. Court becomes card. Shot becomes shard. And lawn becomes lawn. Not exactly lawn, but it's similar to that. So similar kind of shift is always there when you see the pronunciations of American English. Okay, now let's come to another point called vocabulary. In terms of vocabulary too, there are plenty of examples where American vocabulary differs from that of British people. American English differs from British in matters of vocabulary with relation to certain differences, because there are some geographical reasons as well as agricultural reasons, and you can also say there are some social reasons. And the one more important reason is that Americans tend to adopt things from several other local traditions. The most importantly, they've adopted a lot from the Canadian tradition. In fact, if you try to see Canadian variety of English, you will see that Canadian variety is actually American variety of English. So these are the things. Okay, now let's understand the vocabulary differences in terms of British and American English. See, these words, red words are British and these purple words are American. The flat is called apartment, biscuit is called cracker, town, city, shop, store, lift, elevator. Railway is railroad, assistant is clerk, pavement is sidewalk, lorry is truck, and bracket is parenthesis in American English. So this difference can be understood here. There is also difference in relation to grammar of British and American English. American English also differs from British English in relation to grammar because they don't exactly mean what they say at certain points. And we can also understand these differences in terms of the categories. So let's understand them with the help of these categories. It will be easy for you to remember them if we categorize them into groups. So let's first understand the use of prepositions, difference in the use of prepositions. American English differs from British English while using prepositions in some of the cases. For example, British people will say, I'm in the street. So American will say, I'm on the street. British will say, at the weekend. Americans won't say at, they'll say on the weekend. British will say cater for people. American will say cater to people. British will say in two minds. American will say of two minds. So you can see the difference. They use on instead of in, on instead of at, to instead of for, and of instead of in. So these are the differences of use of prepositions. There are other differences of use of prepositions, but they are in a different context. We'll see them after some time. Then there is one more special category. It's not actually a group, it's for the single word. That is participle of the word get. Past participle of the word get. British past participle of the word get is got, and its past tense is also got. But for American, it is not so. For American, past participle of the word get is gotten. Get, got, gotten. It doesn't mean that they don't use got, they use got also, but more commonly they use gotten. So if you look at all these things, you'll see or find that American people tend to simplify things in their language, while British tend to keep them as they are. Americans are keeping them simple. They are removing the complexities of the language, while Britishers are not doing that. Anyways, let's understand this with the help of example. You can see it on your screen. Get, got is the British spelling, and get, got, gotten is the American grammar. Now, see, there is an example given in the last row, that is, have you got it? This will be the British question, while American question will be, have you gotten it? Now, come to the next category, that is of the use of tense. Now, British people generally tend to use present perfect tense with yet and already. If these words are there, they generally use present perfect tense, while Americans again simplify a thing to use simple past tense with these words. See these examples. There are 3 examples on your screen. The British people will normally say, have you not eaten your breakfast yet? And Americans will say, didn't you eat your breakfast yet? Didn't you eat your breakfast yet? Now, same is the case with another example. He has already taken tea, and Americans will say he already took tea. That is, K is missing in the took. So they'll say he already took tea. Then I've got to go. So this is I've got to go. When British say, they say I've got to go, while Americans say I gotta go. This is the difference. I gotta go. I have got to go. I gotta go. This is the difference of the grammar, a use of actually present perfect tense and simple past tense. Now, the fourth one is use of than in place of from after different. In British English, you will definitely see that after different, they'll say different from. They say different from. Americans won't say that. They'll say different than, not different from. So you can understand this difference also with the help of these examples which appear on your screen. They say, see the first one, her class is different from his class. And Americans will definitely say her class is different than his class. In British, it is I'm different from them. In American, it's I'm different than them. See the last one, his case is different from mine. His case is different than mine. So this is the difference. See, this is also one more difference. Use of through after from instead of to. British use to, while Americans use through. See the examples. The tour lasted from June to August is British, while Americans will deliberately say the tour lasted from June through August. He stayed here from March to July. He stayed here from March through July. It lasted from 2020 to 2023, while Americans will say that it lasted from 2020 through 23. So this was all about British and American English. I hope you have understood things and liked these things. You can write your answers in the examination if you listen to this video once, twice, or 3 times. Enjoy your life. And if you have liked the video, hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Thank you very much. See you in the next video.